Good morning, everybody. Pastor Stitch, Narrow Path Christian Church, BC, Bay City, Michigan. Welcome to the Biker Devotional. So this morning, it is March 20th, 2024. We are looking at Proverbs chapter 20 today. There was a couple of things that jumped at me today. First and foremost, there's a couple of places where Solomon reminds us that God is not a fan of different standards. If you got a standard here and a standard there, and you're judging one person this way and another person this way, and you've got this standard for this thing and this standard for this thing, that's not okay. In verse 22 or 23, he says, "Differing weights are detestable to the Lord, and dishonest scales are unfair." Sometimes we find ourselves in that position where we have a standard that we hold ourselves for work, a standard we hold ourselves for our family, a standard we hold ourselves for maybe our club, a standard we hold ourselves for our church, our children, our mom and dad, outer family. We have these standards, and they don't always coincide. Well, I don't have a choice. I have to show up to work every day because, well, I won't get a paycheck if I don't. And so I'm committed to that. But my child's ball game, that one, I'm tired today. And so I just need to relax, or, I can make a couple extra bucks if I stay late at work, or I've got the chance to go do this thing that I've always wanted to do. And so our standard for our commitments can be varying. And it makes sense to be varying, doesn't it? But Solomon also reminds us this in verse 25. It's a trap for anyone to dedicate something rashly and later reconsider his vows. It's dangerous to make a commitment and then later look at whether you were really able to keep that commitment or not. When we make a commitment, we should hold to it. And then we've got to make the determination what commitment, if we've got multiple commitments in the same moment, what commitment meets the ultimate standard that we should be living to. Often in the recovery world that I live in, and hopefully you live in as well, because you need to work the process of sanctification, which is what the world calls recovery. Don't believe me? Just really spend some time praying about it and reading the 12 steps, and you'll find out. But the reality is, first and foremost, if you're unable to breathe, if you're unable to take care of yourself, if you're unable to be solid and whole, every other commitment is just halfway. It's just a partial. You're only giving pieces because you're not whole yourself. And so I tell people all the time, your first priority has to be you and your relationship with God. And the best way to do that is make sure you're committed to your recovery. Getting to meetings, especially when you're struggling. Showing up, even if it means that you have to step off of another commitment. And now that doesn't sound right, because that sounds like differing measures, differing weights, differing scales. But the weight that has to be used to calibrate the scale is your relationship with God and how well you are when you're strong. And when you're strong, then you can be useful in other areas. It's just something to think about today, guys. It's not a comfortable thought, and it's not an easy thought. That's why you also need somebody to mentor you, somebody that you're following as a disciple. In the recovery world, someone you would call a sponsor. Someone who's further along in the walk spiritually and emotionally and even physically than what you are. Has more experience. They don't have to be a lot further ahead, but they got to be growing. There's something to be looking for and having those conversations with them. So I want you to think about that today as you go out into the world. What is your standard that calibrates your scale? It's an important one to figure out. I love y'all. Hope you have a great day. God bless.